So when we're talking about conflict, how would an individual who may have a partner like that, and you can answer them both ways, not only a partner, but we deal with relationship and everything is relational, right? Your
Right.
daughter, your son, your not just your
Yes.
spouse or your intimate partner,
But your boss.
your boss, your
Yep.
coworker.
A
So
friend.
how would someone
Yes.
deal with conflict? Because conflict is going to be the number one thing. Because if that person can't receive it, they're immediately going to give you, some type of projection where you're going to ultimately get upset because
Right.
they're not willing to accept it or hear it. So how do individuals navigate that space and dealing with conflict with a person that has those characteristics or that trait?
It's very difficult. It's very challenging. This is why narcissistic relationships with narcissistic people can be very toxic and abusive, is because you might have to accept that you don't have a voice in that relationship. And that that is hurtful to the person and looks like abuse. Right. So as soon as something like that happens, when someone's not willing to listen to you and turns it back around on you, you definitely don't want to get pulled into an argument with that person. I think a lot of the mistakes that people make is they keep insisting on getting their point of view across with someone who's committed to not hearing that.
Exactly.
And it's not effective. It doesn't go anywhere. And so at that point, when you realize you're dealing with someone like that, you have to step back and just accept that they see things how they see things, and maintain your position. Like if they're gaslighting you and saying, well, that just didn't happen, which is something they'll do. They'll say, I never said that, well, it hurt me when I didn't do that.
Right.
You say, well, we remember things very differently, or we see things very differently. And you might have to accept that you're not going to get this narcissistic person to listen to you if they're not listening, to see what you're saying, to understand how you feel, to recognize your experience. You explain it the best you can. If they gaslight you, if they belittle you for bringing it up, I recommend disengaging and noting that this is a person who's incapable of that kind of interaction. This is a person who doesn't want to know about my experience. And then, you ought to decide, well, what that means for you and what kind of a relationship you can continue to have. And if you have a choice, sometimes with family, you don't have that much of a choice. With a partner, maybe you do. Even in families, you can choose how much of a relationship you're going to have. So maybe you can't be that close to this person, or you can't get your needs met with this person, but you can be cordial with them on family barbecues or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
right.
But you might have to let go of getting the narcissist to see things from your perspective when they don't want to see another perspective. They're committed to their own.
Okay. So really it's up to you to kind of be the bigger person. And so
And I hate that idea of there's a dysfunctional family member and now we have to all be mature while this person can just act out and be crazy. And right? Nobody wants that. But it's not really that idea. It's more the idea that realistically, you can't control how that person behaves, and you can't control what they see and what they understand. And so when I set a boundary and the narcissist or this dysfunctional person doesn't understand it or accept it, I can't understand it for them.
Right.
I can't make them understand it. So then, when you set a boundary, you present them with a choice to accept your boundary or not.
Right.
And with a functional, with a healthy, well-adjusted person who wants to have a good relationship with you, normally they accept your boundary and your relationship improves because now you understand each other's needs and feelings better, and you understand how to operate together. And that's the whole reason for a boundary, is we know how we can coexist together.
Right.
With a narcissist doesn't care about that. They don't care about how you can exist. They're only interested in how they can exist.
And that's what I'm kind of concerned with, because
yes.
so when they don't care about your boundaries, and we set up boundaries really to protect ourselves. So when you set up these boundaries, or you said don't get into an argument with them, just take a step back, it's sort of like, are you really having a relationship, or are you just really coexisting?
That was my question. It seems like you can't have a relationship because you
Yeah.
can't have an open conversation.
I mean, like
This is the thing that's so sad for families and people to learn, is that like you really can't have a relationship or a healthy relationship with someone who's really a narcissist. You can't. And so, I mean, that's a good point. Like, what happens after you set the boundary, if they don't accept your boundary, what happens then? Well, then now you have a set of choices. And your choices are, how much do you want to continue to invest in a person or expose yourself to a person who disrespects you? That's your choice now.
Right.
And so if it's a family member, you might have to like limit your engagement or limit your contact, but you can't just cut that person out of your life. Or maybe you can. It depends on the relationship and your family dynamics. If it's a partner, you want to have a real hard think about, should I stay in a relationship that is this disrespectful to me and neglects my needs, right? So after someone, you give someone the choice to accept your boundary. If they don't, your choice then is, okay, so what do I do about that? Like, how do I have a relationship with this person if I have one at all? You can't make them accept the boundary. You just decide what you're going to continue to do with them or without them from that point on out.
I don't know. That seems a little like sad, kind of a way. So it's like you really. So what are some of the strategies do you have? So tell us about your book, and then we can go into strategy.